You're listening to
Catholic Sprouts,
the daily podcast for Catholic kids that strives to plant seeds of faith.
What's up, Sprouts? Luke Helwig back with you again. Today is May 5th, and we're continuing our discussion about how through our baptism we are all called to be missionaries and to share the good news of Christ. So we talked about first that Jesus invites us to do this. He says, go and make disciples of all nations. Then we talked about how before we can go out and share the good news with others, we first have to fill our own heart with that love and with that good news. And third, how do we actually go? Well, we accompany people. We win them over to ourselves and to the Lord, and we build them up in the faith and in virtue, and then we send them out to invite others. So now today I want to share with you an awesome tool that you can use throughout the whole process of accompanying others, and it's your story, also called sharing your testimony. So what is that? Well, sharing your testimony is just sharing the way in which God has changed your own life and sharing that with others so that they can see the impact that a life of Christ can have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you my testimony, and then at the end I'm going to break down the 4 parts of a testimony and then encourage you guys to practice and learn your own testimony as well. So here we go. For me, my testimony really begins in 6th grade on the playground. My closest group of friends, I had 3 really good friends. Well, they all approached me on the playground and they said, you know, Luke, we don't really want to be your friend anymore. Man. So as you can imagine, I was really hurt and I was really sad. And I think for the first time in my life, that's where I truly experienced darkness and sorrow and loneliness. And I carried this into the next year, which was my first year of middle school. So anyone out there who's in middle school or who's been through middle school, you know middle school can be tough. So I entered into middle school with no friends. And because of this loneliness and this darkness and this sadness that I had, I tried to fill all of that, fill the emptiness in my heart by really just trying to be someone who I wasn't, by trying to impress people, by trying to wear the right clothes or do the right things or say the right jokes so that people would like me. But the problem was that it wasn't very authentic. That wasn't who I was. And so I was struggling with this tension between trying to get people to like me, but also it not going very well because it wasn't the true me. So this was most of middle school and even into high school that I struggled with this tension between, needing others' approval, but having them approve something that wasn't real. So I remember the summer before my freshman year is where things started to change. So we switched from going to our normal mass to the teen mass at my church, and the youth minister came up to me after mass and said, "Hey, we're going on a retreat this summer. Do you want to come?" And I was like, no, not really, I'm new here. But he was just so genuine and so excited, and he really sounded like he wanted me to come. Not just to fill another seat on the bus, but he wanted me to be there. So reluctantly, I said yes, and I remember the night before we left, I was asking my parents, what is this going to be about? And they're like, it'll probably be time for prayer and small groups and, talking about Jesus and Mass. And I remember saying, I don't want to go. That sounds terrible. I don't want to go. And my parents said, well, you signed up. Let's go to the church tomorrow and see how you feel. I remember going to the church and getting on the bus, and everyone there was just so excited to meet me and to get to know me. And for the first time, I realized, wow, these people want to know the real me, not this fake me that I'd been trying to be. And so we go on the retreat, and that night, the first night, they bring Jesus out in Eucharistic adoration. And now I'd been to Mass, we went as a family, we went to adoration every now and then, so I knew what it was supposed to be. But for the first time, I saw in the monstrance not just a piece of bread, but I felt and I saw the presence of the Lord. And I watched as 2,000 other teenagers all drop to their knees when Jesus came out. And I remember thinking, okay, something big is happening here. This is more than just a piece of bread. And I felt in my heart the voice of the Lord say, Luke, stop trying to be someone you're not. Be the man that I want you to be. And so for the first time since 6th grade, that darkness and that loneliness and that sorrow melted away. And I felt alive and excited and happy. And now things didn't just magically change from then on out. I still had to wrestle with this balance between, still wanting others' approval, but knowing that I had a source of joy in Jesus. And so that was all of high school, was just kind of wrestling and trying to figure this out, figure out who I was, and ultimately to just continue to hear the voice of the Lord say, Luke, I love you, and this is who I want you to be, and to finally be able to push away the voices of the world and really just believe Jesus and to believe his love for me helped me to just grow in confidence. And I was able to graduate high school with just a heart full of joy. And so then when I went to college and I got involved with Focus as a student, I just realized that, man, there's a lot of people out there that struggle, that have this same loneliness and sorrow and darkness in their own hearts. And I realized that God was calling me to make a difference in their life as well. And so that's why for the last 11 years, I've been a full-time missionary, because I don't want anyone to feel the way that I did in middle school and throughout high school. I want everyone to know that they are loved and that the light of Christ can cast out all darkness. And so I hope through my story to invite you to consider that as well. Which voice are you listening to the most often? The voice of the world or the voice of the Lord? So there you go. That's my story. And what I want to do now is kind of break down, like I said, there's 4 parts to a good testimony. The first part is to talk about your life before Christ. But don't dwell too much on it. You don't need to get into all the details, but just a kind of a snapshot of where you were before Christ. Again, for me, I was lonely. I was sad. Then talk about when you met Jesus and use his name. Say Jesus. Don't say, well, yeah, I went on this retreat and had a good time. Or, yeah, well, like God was kind of working in my life. Like, no, Jesus Christ spoke to me, or I met him in the Eucharist, or whatever it may be. Then the third part is that you share how that meeting changed your life for the better. So again, for me, it was a struggle, but I began to have more joy and more love in my life. And then finally, the last part is an invitation to be able to use that change in your life to invite others to consider looking at their own life. So again, for me, mine was to invite you to ask yourself, which voice do you listen to more often? So again, those 4 parts: life before Christ, meeting Jesus, life after that meeting, and then inviting others into that story. So there you go. That's a testimony. That's my story. My challenge for you today is to think about that, to think about those 4 parts. And then also, if you are able to either share or give an attempt at sharing your testimony, or maybe ask your parents or a sibling or a friend what their story is. So until tomorrow, let's go make disciples of all nations. Be devout and peace out.
That's it for Catholic Sprouts today. We'll be back tomorrow, but until then, continue to grow in your faith and truly sprout into the beautiful creation that God created you to be.
What's up, parents? Thank you so much for lending me your ear this week. I hope that this has been helpful, helping both your kids and you learn and grow in confidence of being able to share the good news. Again, Jesus asks all of us to make disciples. If you're interested in any of the work that Focus does or more about what I do, feel free to go to focus.org or shoot me an email, luke.helwig@focus.org. I'll be praying for you. Pray for me. As parents, we need to stick together. And the best way to become a saint is to raise saints. Thanks so much. Peace.
This show is a production of the Spoke Street Media Podcast Network. For more great podcasts, visit spokestreet.com.